The galaxy was vast, filled with hundreds of civilizations, some of unimaginable power, others just scraping by. For eons, these species had coexisted in a fragile balance, each one aware of the importance of maintaining peace. Yet, deep within the dark expanse of the universe, there were whispers about one species that had risen to prominence, a species that had once been considered insignificant. They were called humans. The mistake, however, wasn't made by them. It came from the higher echelons of the galaxy, those who had underestimated the ferocity and ingenuity of humanity. No one had ever truly paid attention to humans until the day they decided to make their mark on the galactic stage. It all started with a single, seemingly innocuous interaction, a simple mistake made by one of the more advanced species. They thought they could control or manipulate humanity, seeing them as a primitive race, unworthy of any real concern. How wrong they were. It didn't take long for those higher up in the galaxy to realize the mistake. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to fight back, to surprise. What began as an experiment to exploit the humans quickly spiraled out of control. The consequences were immediate, and they were devastating. The humans, in their unique, unpredictable way, had begun to fight back first with words, then with weapons, and finally with strategies that no one had anticipated. The more they underestimated humanity, the stronger the humans became. It wasn't just their physical strength or their technological advancements that posed a threat. It was their creativity, their will to survive, and their sheer determination to protect what was theirs. And now, that same determination had turned against the very beings that thought they could dominate them. In a distant galaxy, a group of beings who once believed themselves to be untouchable now found themselves staring down the edge of extinction, their fate sealed by the very species they had sought to control. They had expected to manipulate humans into compliance, to exploit their resources, to bend them to their will. But the moment they laid their hands on humanity, they had unleashed a force they could neither understand nor contain. What started as a whisper of rebellion soon turned into an unstoppable tide. As the humans learned the ways of the galaxy, they began to grow more sophisticated, more powerful. They didn't just adapt, they evolved. And in their evolution, they began to see that the true strength of humanity wasn't in their technology or their weapons. It was in their unity. It was in the power of their will, the strength of their communities, and the collective force of their determination to protect everything they held dear. Soon, the galaxy had no choice but to watch as humanity became the force that the advanced civilizations had once feared. But even then, the full extent of the consequences had yet to reveal themselves. Humans had something no one else did, the ability to turn the tables, to take control of a situation when all hope seemed lost. And the beings who had made the mistake of underestimating them were now about to learn just how far humans were willing to go to ensure their survival. The beings who had once seen humans as pawns, ready to be played, now found themselves in a battle they never expected. They had awoken something they could not put back to sleep, and now, humanity would show them just what it meant to mess with the wrong species. The question was no longer whether they could win it, was whether they would survive long enough to face the full force of humanity's wrath. But the tension wasn't just in the battle that was unfolding across the galaxy. There was something more at play. Humanity, in its desperation to survive, had begun to form alliances, to build coalitions of their own with species they had never interacted with before. The humans, always curious, had begun to explore the vastness of the galaxy, bringing their own version of peace and conflict wherever they went. They weren't content to be mere players in the cosmic game. They wanted to change the rules. What happened next would leave the entire galaxy questioning their previous assumptions. The once superior beings who thought they controlled the galaxy now found themselves facing something far worse than war. They faced a new way of thinking, a way that didn't follow the predictable patterns they had relied upon for so long. Now, as the forces of humanity and their newfound allies closed in, the powerful beings who had started it all were faced with a question that would haunt them forever. How far were they willing to go to salvage their civilization? What price were they willing to pay to undo the damage they had done by underestimating humans? This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of the galaxy itself. And in the heart of this struggle stood humanity, with a singular, unwavering message to the universe. We never should have messed with humans. As the final battle loomed on the horizon, the question remained who would stand victorious in this intergalactic struggle? And would humanity prove that even in the face of impossible odds, they could still carve their own destiny in the stars? The stage was set, and the universe held its breath, waiting for the next move. The fate of everyone hung in the balance. For centuries, the galaxy had been divided into sectors, each ruled by a powerful coalition of species that had worked together to maintain their dominance over the cosmos. The reigning powers saw themselves as the galaxy's true rulers, each believing that their species was the pinnacle of evolution. They prided themselves on their advanced technology, superior intellect, and an unshakable sense of entitlement to govern. These were the elites, the ones who dictated the terms of engagement with lesser species, and at the top of this hierarchy stood the Zirai, the oldest and most formidable species in the galaxy. The Zirai were known for their unrivaled intellect and unmatched ability to manipulate the laws of physics to their advantage. Their ability to engineer starships that could travel across galaxies, to bend energy to their will, and to read the thoughts of weaker species made them seem invincible. They had long held the belief that any species they encountered was either a subject to be dominated or a resource to be harvested. They had manipulated entire worlds, molding civilizations to their will with ease. At the very bottom of the galactic hierarchy were the humans. They were viewed as primitive, unrefined, and weak, little more than a footnote in the great cosmic ledger. When the Zirai first encountered humanity, they had dismissed them as insignificant. There was no apparent reason to fear these beings, they reasoned. After all, humans hadn't even mastered space travel when the Zirai first observed them, and their technologies were far behind those of the galaxy's great powers. Humanity, to the Zirai, was little more than a fleeting curiosity. But that perception began to change when humans, against all odds, sent their first ship into deep space. It was a modest ship by galactic standards, unremarkable in almost every way, but it was human. It was driven by an unyielding sense of curiosity, an unshakable belief that no matter the obstacles, they could conquer anything. That was the trait that the Zirai failed to account for: their unrelenting drive to survive, their ability to adapt and learn at an unprecedented rate. And when humanity began to make its presence known across the galaxy, the Zirai's initial disinterest turned into concern. Humans had the potential to be more than just a curiosity; they could be a threat. But they underestimated just how quickly the humans could rise to challenge them. The first contact had been nothing more than a skirmish, an accidental misfire that led to the destruction of a Zirai mining outpost. The Zirai, accustomed to controlling entire solar systems, were shocked. How could such a primitive race have the audacity to strike back? It wasn't long before they realized they had made a grave mistake. The humans didn't fear them. They didn't bow to their superior technology. They fought back with an ingenuity that no one had anticipated. Soon, the Zirai found themselves facing a war they weren't prepared for. The humans were relentless. They didn't stop after one skirmish. They learned from every battle, adapted their strategies, and pressed on. The more the Zirai tried to suppress them, they formed alliances with other species, most of whom had long been under the control of the Zirai. The humans' ability to unite and inspire even the most downtrodden species was unmatched. It became clear to the Zirai that they had misjudged humanity, and the cost of that miscalculation was about to become apparent. The war, though still in its early stages, was already taking a heavy toll on the Zirai. Their starships, once the most advanced in the galaxy, were being destroyed by human tactics that were as unpredictable as they were effective. The Zirai could not understand how a species so young could have developed such sophisticated war strategies. They had assumed that technology and intellect alone would ensure their dominance, but they had failed to factor in the human spirit. What the Zirai didn't know, however, was that humanity's greatest strength was not just in their ability to adapt. It was in their refusal to give up. Even when faced with impossible odds, even when the humans were pushed to the brink of annihilation, they kept fighting. The Zirai, who had always relied on their superiority, were beginning to realize they might not win this war. They were losing ground, and they couldn't understand why. The Zirai Council, a group of the galaxy's most powerful leaders, had met in secrecy to discuss the growing threat posed by humanity. They had been willing to tolerate minor resistance, even the occasional skirmish, but this was different. The humans had gone beyond resistance. They were now actively seeking to dismantle the very structure of the galactic order. Worse yet, they had begun to form alliances with the species that had once been the Zirai's greatest subjects. It was the perfect storm, a war between the Zirai and the humans, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. The stakes had never been higher, and every move made by the Zirai was scrutinized by the humans, who were always one step ahead. But the battle was far from over. Despite the growing threat to their civilization, the Zirai were far from defeated. They had one final card to play, a plan so bold, so dangerous that it could turn the tide of the war. But to implement this plan, they would need the cooperation of the one species they had always underestimated, humanity. In the quiet depths of space, as the two forces prepared for their next confrontation, the future of the galaxy seemed uncertain. The humans were rising in power, driven by a need for survival and a desire to reclaim their place in the universe. The Zirai, once confident in their control, now found themselves facing a reckoning. And yet, the biggest twist of all was yet to come. The humans were not the only ones capable of rising from the ashes. As the war raged on, a new threat began to emerge from the darkness. One that would change the fate of the galaxy in ways no one could have predicted. And the humans, once thought to be mere pawns in the grand galactic game, would find themselves at the center of a cosmic upheaval. The Zirai's confidence had wavered, but they were not without their own weapons of last resort. Their plan was simple, yet terrifying. They would unleash a weapon that, if successful, could obliterate the entire human fleet in one devastating blow. But even as they put their plan into motion, they found themselves caught in a web of uncertainty. The humans were unpredictable, and their resilience made them a foe unlike any the Zirai had faced before. The Zirai's weapon, an ancient and forbidden device capable of manipulating time itself, was their final hope. If they could get it into the heart of human-controlled space, they would disrupt the very fabric of reality. The weapon had been designed to erase entire civilizations from history, to undo the very existence of their enemies. It was a gamble, a desperate play, but it was all they had left. At the same time, humanity was facing its own struggles. The war had stretched their resources thin, and their supply lines were increasingly vulnerable to the Zirai's relentless assault. Their military leaders were running out of options, but they still had one undeniable advantage: the human spirit. It was something the Zirai could never truly comprehend. The humans refused to give up, no matter the odds. And as the Zirai's weapon loomed closer to its target, humanity's determination burned brighter than ever. In a tense council meeting aboard a human warship, the leaders discussed their next steps. The Zirai were no longer a far-off threat. They were right at the door, and their final weapon would soon be unleashed. The clock was ticking, and every moment that passed brought them closer to an all-out catastrophe. Yet, amidst the chaos, a young strategist, a newcomer to the war, offered a suggestion that would become their last hope. He proposed a daring mission: infiltrate the Zirai's stronghold, disable the weapon, and take the fight to their doorstep. The plan was fraught with risks. It would require precision, stealth, and a level of bravery that many were not sure they possessed. The humans had no illusions about the challenge ahead of them. But if they failed, the galaxy would fall into the hands of the Zirai, and humanity would be lost forever. The pressure mounted with every passing second. As the clock ticked down, the human fleet prepared for the most dangerous mission of their existence. The young strategist, now promoted to the leader of the operation, gathered a team of elite soldiers. They were to board a stolen Zirai transport ship, navigate through enemy lines, and infiltrate the heavily guarded fortress where the weapon was housed. It was the only way to have a chance at stopping the war from reaching its catastrophic end. But there was more at play than just strategy and tactics. The human soldiers aboard the mission weren't just fighting for their survival. They were fighting for the future of all life in the galaxy. They were fighting for something more than victory or defeat. They were fighting for the right to exist in a universe that had long since written them off as insignificant. As the team prepared to launch, the weight of their mission settled over them. The stakes were higher than ever. With every step they took, the odds seemed to get worse. They could feel the threat of the Zirai weapon looming over them, its power unimaginable. One wrong move could cost them everything. The transport ship blasted off from the human warship, its engines roaring through the void of space. It was a tense journey, with no room for error. Every sensor pinged, every signal scrutinized. The crew remained silent, knowing that every second brought them closer to a world-changing event. There was no turning back now. As they neared the Zirai stronghold, the tension reached a breaking point. The air was thick with anticipation, and the team's nerves were frayed. They could see the fortress looming in the distance, its enormous silhouette casting a shadow over the void. This was it, their moment of truth. They would either succeed or fall in the attempt. But just as the team began their descent, a second, even more unexpected threat emerged from the depths of space. A massive, unidentified fleet appeared on the edge of the human radar. It wasn't the Zirai, it was something far worse. something none of the humans had ever encountered. The unknown fleet's ships were vast, their technology unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The sudden appearance of this new force threw everything into chaos. The team's leader, now faced with an additional layer of uncertainty, had to make an impossible decision. Should they continue with the mission and try to disable the Ziri weapon, knowing that a new threat was closing in on them? Or should they attempt to make contact with the mysterious fleet, hoping that it wasn't an enemy, but a potential ally? As the human team fought to make it to the heart of the Ziri stronghold, the unknown fleet moved closer, its intentions unclear. The Ziri, now facing both an imminent rebellion and a new, terrifying power, scrambled to adjust their plans. The humans were no longer just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the very future of the galaxy. But in the chaos, the real question remained: could they survive long enough to uncover the truth about the new threat and what it meant for the balance of power in the cosmos? The two forces, humanity and the Ziri, were on the precipice of something monumental, but the full scope of their confrontation had yet to unfold. The final battle, where the fate of all life in the galaxy would be decided, was about to begin, and with every passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The massive, unidentified fleet hovered just outside the range of the human radar, their ships cutting through the darkness of space like silent shadows. The human crew aboard the transport ship, still making their descent toward the Ziri fortress, had no idea what was closing in on them. But one thing was certain: time was running out. With the Ziri's weapons still primed to launch and the new fleet appearing out of nowhere, everything they knew about the war was about to change. As the team moved deeper into the heart of enemy territory, their communication systems suddenly flickered with interference. It wasn't just the usual static they had come to expect when moving through hostile zones. It was something more deliberate. Something was actively trying to block their transmission. For a moment, the team was cut off from the rest of the human fleet, isolated in enemy space, with no backup and no way to get reinforcements. It was a chilling feeling, one that made their skin crawl. The silence felt too heavy, and it was becoming harder to ignore the nagging feeling that something larger than the war itself was unfolding around them. The unknown fleet continued its approach, now drawing closer to the human warships. With no clear indication of whether they were friend or foe, the humans found themselves caught in a race against time. Should they attempt to re-establish communication and risk giving away their position to the Ziri? Or should they stay hidden and hope for the best? But the question they couldn't avoid was what the new fleet wanted. Were they merely an observer, or had they come to claim the galaxy for themselves? Inside the Ziri fortress, the pressure on the leadership was mounting. The weapon, an ancient device capable of bending the fabric of reality, was nearly ready for activation. The Ziri had pushed humanity to the brink, but their desperation grew with each passing minute. They knew that the humans were resourceful, that their will to survive was unmatched. What they didn't know was that the humans had already figured out a way to disable the weapon. A small, unassuming team had infiltrated their stronghold and was now fighting their way to the heart of the facility. But the twist came when the humans discovered something that the Ziri had kept hidden, something far darker than a simple weapon. In the deepest recesses of the fortress, the team uncovered a chamber filled with ancient alien technology. It wasn't just a weapon, but an artifact that seemed to be sentient, its true power far greater than anything the humans had anticipated. The true nature of the weapon became clear. It wasn't meant to obliterate humanity. It was designed to reshape reality itself, to rewrite history and erase entire species from existence. The discovery sent shockwaves through the team. They now realized that their mission wasn't just about stopping a weapon, it was about preventing an existential reset that could undo everything they had fought for. The Zirii had been playing a far deeper game, one that stretched back millennia. They had only been a pawn in a much larger cosmic struggle, caught between forces beyond their understanding. As the team made their way to disable the artifact, a new wave of danger emerged. The unknown fleet, now identified as an ancient galactic force, known as the Aetharii, arrived with a terrifying display of power. The Aetharii had long been dormant, waiting in the shadows of the universe. And now they had awoken. The humans were no longer just fighting for survival against the Zirii. They were now standing in the way of a far greater force, one that had its sights set on the entire galaxy. The Aetherii's ships surrounded the human fleet, their weapons primed. The humans were trapped, caught between two deadly forces. But the Aetherii weren't interested in mere conquest. They were searching for the artifact, the very device the humans were about to destroy. The Aetherii had known of its existence for eons, and had sought it out, hoping to use its power to reshape the galaxy to their will. Now, the human team found themselves with a terrible choice. Activate the artifact and risk unleashing its full power on the galaxy, or destroy it and face the wrath of the Aetherii, who would stop at nothing to claim it. In that moment, everything changed. The team realized that their mission was no longer just about saving humanity. It was about saving the very fabric of reality itself. The Zirii, who had once seen themselves as the galaxy's ultimate predators, were now no more than a stepping stone for something far more dangerous. The Aetherii were not concerned with the fate of the Zirii or humanity. They were playing a game that spanned eons, a game that had been set in motion long before either race had ever existed. Their motives were as ancient and mysterious as the artifact they sought. As the two fleets locked in a deadly standoff, the human team's objective shifted. The artifact had to be destroyed, not because the humans feared the Aetherii, but because they understood the true cost of allowing such power to remain in the universe. They had no illusions about the consequences. In a way, they were now fighting to protect not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. The tension in the air was palpable as the final battle loomed. The humans, isolated and outnumbered, faced the impossible task of stopping the Aetherii and the Zirii from gaining control of the artifact. But they had one advantage, the very thing the Aetherii had underestimated: the resilience of humanity. It was this spark of determination that had carried them through every challenge, every battle. And now, it would be their greatest weapon in the face of the impossible. The countdown to the artifact's activation began. Every second that passed brought the galaxy closer to the edge of annihilation. The stakes were higher than ever before, and as the human team fought their way toward the artifact's core, they knew the true fight was just beginning. It wasn't just about saving humanity. It was about ensuring that the galaxy would have a future at all. The final confrontation was about to unfold, and the true nature of the threat facing the galaxy was about to be revealed. Would the humans succeed in their impossible mission, or would the Aetherii and the Zirii rewrite the universe in their own image? Only time would tell. As the countdown to the artifact's activation neared its final seconds, the tension in the control room was unbearable. The hum of the engines, the static crackle of communication channels, and the rapid beeping of the countdown timer blended into a symphony of impending doom. The human team, battered but resolute, stood at the heart of the Zirii fortress, just a few steps away from the device that could rewrite the entire galaxy. The HFY fleet hovered in orbit, its ships casting long, menacing shadows across the war-torn planet below. Their massive warships, bristling with weapons, watched silently, waiting for the moment when the humans would either destroy the artifact or trigger its unimaginable power. The Xerii forces, once masters of their domain, had now been reduced to mere spectators, their plans collapsing around them as the HFY tightened their grip on the galaxy's fate. The human squad leader, grim determination in his eyes, activated the device's deactivation sequence. The room was filled with the sound of machinery whirring to life, the heavy clang of locks disengaging, and the flickering of lights. The artifact, a complex network of alien circuits and pulsating energy, flickered in response, its energy surging as if aware of the impending danger. But the countdown didn't stop. It was still ticking, relentlessly moving toward oblivion. In that moment, an unexpected voice echoed through the comms, sharp and clear. "Stop! Don't destroy it." The voice came from one of the HFY commanders whose face appeared on the holographic screen. The humans froze. They hadn't expected this. The HFY had always been cold, calculating, and indifferent to the fates of lesser species. Why were they speaking now, offering a ceasefire when they were on the cusp of victory? "Listen carefully," the HFY commander continued. "This artifact is not just a weapon, it's a key. A key to unlocking the true potential of the universe. It was created long before either of our races existed. Its power is beyond what any of us can fully understand, but its true purpose is not destruction. It is creation, reformation, the ability to rewrite reality itself, to mold the very fabric of existence." The humans exchanged wary glances. It was a dangerous gamble to trust the HFY, especially now. But the implications of the artifact were clear. It could either save or condemn everything. "Why didn't you tell us this before?" one of the human team members demanded, the disbelief evident in his voice. "We were waiting for the right moment," the HFY commander replied. "We knew you would resist, but now you must see the truth. Humanity is the key to unlocking its full potential. Your species, with all your flaws and triumphs, is the only one capable of wielding this power. The Xerii were merely pawns in a game far beyond their comprehension. The galaxy, the universe itself, will be reshaped by this artifact. But it requires the will of a human heart to control it." The words hung in the air like a trap. The humans were at a crossroads. To destroy the artifact was to risk the wrath of the HFY, an ancient force with the power to crush them. But to wield the artifact's power, to reshape reality as the HFY proposed, meant putting the future of the universe into the hands of one species, humans. In the chaos of these conflicting choices, another unexpected twist arrived. From deep within the fortress, the Xerii leaders made their final move. With their forces in disarray, they activated a hidden override command, trying to seize control of the artifact themselves. The air around them crackled with raw energy as the artifact's systems began to rebel against the unauthorized command. The human team could feel the ground beneath them tremble as the unstable energy threatened to tear the fortress apart. "We don't have much time," the human squad leader said, his voice cutting through the rising panic. "We either take control of this thing, or we lose everything." With a final, collective breath, they rushed to the central control panel. The human leader reached out and input a series of commands, desperately trying to stabilize the artifact's fluctuating energy. The air hummed with tension as the power surged again, brighter and fiercer than before. But the control room began to shake, as if the universe itself was fighting back. Just as the human team leader was about to push the final button to deactivate the artifact, an unexpected shockwave blasted through the room. The HFY fleet had finally made their move. Their weapons fired with devastating precision, their ships unleashing a torrent of energy that collided with the fortress, causing it to tremble with an intensity that threatened to crumble everything around them. And then, a final revelation: the artifact wasn't just a weapon or a key. It was a living entity, one that had been waiting for the right moment to reveal its true purpose. As the blast from the HFY struck the fortress, the artifact activated in ways no one had predicted. Instead of unleashing its destructive potential, it absorbed the energy, redirecting it into the galaxy, sending a pulse that rippled across space. The artifact wasn't meant to destroy it, was meant to create a new equilibrium, a balance between all life forms, a reset of the cosmic order. But there was a cost. The pulse from the artifact drained the remaining energy from the HFY ships, rendering them powerless. The Xerii, caught in the blast's wake, were also neutralized. The human team watched in awe as the vast energies from the artifact flowed through the galaxy, leaving a wake of change in its path. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend, reshaping worlds, adjusting the flow of time, and altering the destinies of countless civilizations. In the aftermath, the human leader stood in front of the deactivated artifact, his heart pounding in his chest. They had succeeded, but the price had been steep. The galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had become the architects of a new era, one where they now held the power to shape the future. But at what cost? Was humanity ready for such responsibility? The final twist, the true nature of the artifact, was still unclear. No one fully understood the extent of the changes it had caused. The galaxy was altered, but in ways no one could predict. As the humans made their way back to their ship, they realized that they had not only saved the galaxy, they had changed it forever. And with that, the story concluded on a quiet, uncertain note. The fate of the galaxy was in the hands of the humans now, and as the stars glittered above, they realized one undeniable truth: sometimes the greatest power lies not in control, but in the choices we make when everything is on the line. The air was heavy with the aftermath of the battle, a strange stillness settling over the remnants of the alien stronghold. The victorious humans stood scattered across the battlefield, their weary faces illuminated by the faint glow of the twin moons. Despite the hard-fought victory, a quiet unease lingered among them, as if the weight of what they had achieved was only beginning to sink in. Ava stood at the edge of the wreckage, her eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of movement. The once pristine landscape was now scarred with craters, shattered alien technology, and the remains of those who had underestimated humanity's resolve. She could feel the tension easing slightly with every breath, but deep down, she knew the war wasn't over, not truly. Victory in this battle had come at a cost, and there were still questions that begged for answers. Behind her, Captain Ryland emerged from a cluster of soldiers, his steps slow but purposeful. He carried a small device in his hand, its screen flashing with alien symbols that seemed to shift and ripple as if alive. Ava turned to face him, her expression a mixture of relief and apprehension. "We've secured it," Ryland said, holding up the device. "This is the key to their communication network. We can finally understand their intentions, maybe even find a way to negotiate peace or ensure they never rise against us again." Ava nodded, though her gaze lingered on the device. "And if it reveals something worse than we imagined?" Ryland's jaw tightened, his silence heavy with unspoken fears. They both knew that the aliens' attack had been calculated, their motives buried beneath layers of secrecy. The humans had fought back with unmatched determination, but they were still grasping at fragments of the truth. The surviving soldiers began gathering near the makeshift command post, their faces a mix of exhaustion and hope. The humans' strength lay not only in their adaptability, but in their unity, a bond forged through shared struggles and triumph. The alien invaders had underestimated that bond, and it had cost them dearly. As the humans regrouped, Ava and Ryland worked to decode the device, their fingers flying over the controls. Each fragment of data they uncovered painted a clearer picture of the alien race's plans. The invaders had viewed humanity as a mere obstacle, a primitive species to be conquered and reshaped for their own purposes. But what struck Ava most was a single line buried deep within the data. "We never should have provoked them." The words sent a chill through her. It wasn't just an admission of regret, it was a warning, a testament to the consequences of underestimating humanity's tenacity. The aliens had learned too late that humanity's spirit, forged through millennia of survival and growth, was not something to be taken lightly. Days turned into weeks as the humans worked to rebuild and strengthen their defenses. The alien remnants had scattered, their forces shattered, but Ava knew they were not gone entirely. She and Ryland led the efforts to secure alliances with other species, sharing the hard-earned lessons of the war. Humanity's resilience became a beacon, drawing the attention of allies and wary observers alike. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ava found herself standing on a hill overlooking the rebuilt settlement. The scars of war were still visible, but life had begun to return, tentative yet determined. She thought about the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the bond that had grown stronger among those who had survived. Ryland joined her, his presence a steady anchor amidst the whirlwind of thought. "You did good out there," he said, his voice low but sincere. "So did you," Ava replied, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "But this isn't the end, is it?" "There's always another challenge waiting," Ryland chuckled, though there was little humor in it. "That's the thing about humanity. We don't stop. We learn, we adapt, and we keep moving forward." Ava smiled faintly, the weight on her shoulders feeling a little lighter. The war had tested them in ways they hadn't imagined, but it had also revealed the depths of their strength and unity. Humanity had faced an enemy that sought to extinguish their light, and they had emerged brighter than ever. In the months that followed, the humans continued to grow and evolve, their place in the galaxy solidifying. They were no longer seen as an underdog species. They were a force to be reckoned with, a reminder of the power of determination and ingenuity. The alien invaders, now scattered and leaderless, became a cautionary tale, a lesson in the dangers of underestimating the seemingly ordinary. Ava often reflected on the words she'd uncovered in the alien data. "We never should have provoked them." It was a sentiment echoed by the galaxy at large, a testament to the indomitable human spirit. The story of humanity's survival became a legend, a source of inspiration for generations to come. As the years passed, the wounds of war began to heal, but the lessons remained. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, united by a common purpose and an unyielding will to survive. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human, and they would never let anyone forget it. Ava, Ryland, and countless others became symbols of that resilience, their names etched into history as a reminder of what could be achieved when humanity stood together. And as the stars stretched endlessly above them, they knew that their story was far from over. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, and they were ready for whatever came next.